Hello, everyone. Today, I'm bringing you a story that won't just improve your listening practice, it will shake your mindset and light a fire inside you. The story is called Nothing is Free, and it proves one powerful truth. Hard work and determination can transform any ordinary life into something extraordinary. There was a young man named Leo, just 20 years old, living in a small, quiet town hidden between tall mountains. Leo had dreams far bigger than his surroundings. He wanted to build his own chain of restaurants and become a successful entrepreneur. But the road ahead wasn't easy. Leo's family was going through tough financial times. His father, Mark, worked long hours as a mechanic, and his mother, Claire, cleaned houses just to keep the family afloat. Leo's little sister, Sophie, only 10, admired him more than anyone else in the world. One freezing evening, Leo sat outside their tiny house, looking up at the stars. He whispered to himself, "I want to give my family a better life. But how do I even begin when we barely have enough to live?" The next morning, Leo shared his dream with his father, Mark. Mark sighed deeply and said, "Leo, dreams are not free. If you want something, you must fight for it. Start with whatever you have, even if it's tiny." Leo kept replaying his father's words in his mind. Then suddenly, a spark lit inside him. He realized that in his town, people loved fresh bread, but they had to travel far just to buy it. That's when he decided that he would start selling fresh bread right in his own neighborhood. But there was one big problem. Leo had no money to buy even a single loaf. Still, he gathered his courage and went to meet the bakery owner, Mr. Anderson. He walked several miles to reach him, a grumpy old man who barely trusted anyone. Standing tall, Leo said confidently, "Mr. Anderson, I want to sell your bread in my town, but I don't have money to buy it up front. Can you trust me for 1 week? I'll sell the bread, return your money, and keep a small profit." Mr. Anderson lifted an eyebrow. "And why should I trust you, young man?" he asked sharply. Leo replied with steady determination, "Because I am committed and I will work hard to prove it." After a long, tense silence, Mr. Anderson finally said, "All right, I'll give you bread for 1 week. But if you fail to pay me back, don't ever come here again." Leo's heart lit up with excitement. The very next morning, he carried the baskets of bread back to his town and set up a small stand near the park. He greeted every person who walked by with energy and a bright smile, calling out, "Fresh bread, warm and delicious!" At first, people hesitated. They weren't sure if the bread was worth trying. But Leo offered free samples, and soon he made his very first sale. By the end of the day, every loaf was gone, and he earned a small profit. That evening, he returned to Mr. Anderson and handed him the money. The old man nodded slowly and said, "You kept your word. Come back tomorrow." From that day forward, Leo worked non-stop. He woke up at 4 a.m., walked to the bakery, carried the bread back to his town, and sold it with full passion and energy. After 2 months of hard work, he finally saved enough to buy a small cart, making it easier for him to carry more bread. One day, a customer said, "Leo, why don't you bake your own bread? You're great at selling, but if you bake it yourself, you'll earn much more." The idea filled Leo with excitement, yet it also scared him. He had never baked anything before. That moment, Leo understood the truth. Nothing is free, not success, not knowledge, not growth. If I want to succeed, I have to take risks and learn. He couldn't stop thinking about the idea of becoming a baker. If he learned, he wouldn't depend on Mr. Anderson, and his profit would increase. But one huge problem stood in his way. he didn't know how to bake. So Leo made a decision. He would ask Mr. Anderson to teach him. The next morning, after paying him, Leo said, "Mr. Anderson, can you teach me how to bake?" The old man frowned and said, "Why should I teach you? If you learn to bake, you won't buy from me. That's bad for my business." Leo looked straight into his eyes and said, "You're right, but I'll never forget the man who gave me my first chance. If I succeed, I'll make sure your bakery grows with me." Mr. Anderson paused, thinking hard, then finally said, "All right, I'll teach you, but baking isn't easy. It requires time, patience, and real hard work. If you're truly ready for that, I'll teach you." The lessons began early the next morning. Leo reached the bakery at 3 a.m., long before sunrise. Mr. Anderson taught him how to mix the flour, knead the dough, and bake it to perfection. In the beginning, Leo struggled. His hands ached from kneading, and sometimes the bread came out too hard, sometimes too soft. One morning, after ruining yet another batch, Leo sat down, completely defeated. He whispered, "Maybe I'm not good enough for this. Maybe I should just give up." But then he remembered his father's words, "Dreams are not free." And he understood every mistake was a lesson pushing him closer to success. Giving up was not an option. The next day, Leo returned to the bakery with even stronger determination. He practiced every single step with full focus. Slowly, his bread began to improve. After 2 weeks, Mr. Anderson handed him a loaf and said, "This is perfect, Leo. You're ready." Leo was overjoyed. He rented a small oven and started baking bread at home. His family couldn't believe his dedication. Sophie, his little sister, helped him pack the bread, and his mother prepared tea for him as he worked late into the night. Soon, Leo wasn't just selling bread anymore. He began making cookies and pastries too. The town fell in love with his products. People said, "Leo's bread tastes better than anything we've ever had." But success didn't come without challenges. One day, a new bakery opened in the town, run by a young man named Eric. Eric had a big, fancy shop with colorful signs and bright decorations. Curious customers started buying from him instead. Leo noticed his sales dropping. Fear crept into his heart. What if he lost everything he had worked so hard to build? But instead of panicking, he chose to improve. He listened carefully to his customers and asked, "What do you like about Eric's bakery? What can I do better?" Some replied, "Eric's shop looks clean and beautiful." Others said, "His cakes have amazing designs." Leo realized he needed to grow, not just as a baker, but as a businessman. Using his savings, Leo painted his cart, added bright decorations, and started giving free samples of his new pastries. He even learned cake decorating by watching videos in the library. Slowly, customers began returning to him. One evening, an elderly woman approached Leo and said, "I've seen many young men quit when life gets tough, but you didn't. That's why we trust you." Her words filled him with pride. Months passed, and Leo's business expanded. He saved enough money to rent a small shop. It wasn't as big as Eric's, but it was warm, simple, and welcoming. He named it Leo's Fresh Bakes. Every morning he woke up before sunrise, baked fresh bread, and opened his shop with a warm smile. His parents and sisters supported him every step of the way. Sophie, now 11, loved chatting with customers, and Claire handled the accounts with care. But Leo knew this was only the beginning. He wanted to reach more people, make his family proud, and prove that with hard work, anything is possible. Leo's Bakery, Leo's Fresh Bakes, quickly became the heart of the town. People adored his fresh bread, cakes, and pastries. Business was rising, and his family's pride in him grew every day. But life still had challenges for Leo. One stormy night, as he was closing the shop, he noticed smoke coming from inside. Rushing in, he saw a small fire spreading near the oven. He grabbed water and put out the flames, but much of his equipment was badly damaged. The next morning, when the townspeople heard what happened, they gathered around his shop. Some murmured, "Oh no, what will Leo do now?" Others whispered, "Maybe this is the end for him." Leo's heart ached, but he refused to break. Standing outside his bakery, he said, "This is just another challenge. I've faced hardships before, and I'll face this one too. I won't give up." He took